Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Invictus Pro Wrestling Power Hour. Your hostess with the mostest, Alex Seta, here with Nick Goutman, Ryan Gross, and our special guest for, I'm so used to saying evening, but it's the afternoon when we're recording this.
We'll pretend it's the evening.
We'll pretend it's the evening.
They don't need to know.
Yeah, throw a hefty bag over that window behind you there.
I forgot we're on video. Whoops. Okay.
Mr. Nick Stapp. Nick, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. I'm awake. Is it morning? It's afternoon. We'll just pretend I've been awake for 4 hours and not 40 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, it's Saturday. All bets are off.
Exactly.
So, Nick, we got some questions for you. The folks at home are dying to get into the brain of the songbird of Invictus Pro Wrestling, which I think is a very dashing appellation. I just came up with that when I posted the announcement for this podcast, but
I like it.
I think that's here to stay.
I think a few years ago at Creative Pro we had, actually it was like 2015 probably, when I was like first becoming like kind of acquainted with like Brian Myers and stuff, and we did a Christmas party, we did karaoke, and I was just all about it because I have no shame or like self-awareness of how people view people who do karaoke. And so like the next morning in like our group page or whatever, he was like, "Hey guys, great night last night. Also, Nick is the songbird of our generation." So
there you go.
Perfect. It's perfect.
Has to be true. So Nick, I'm going to start off with the first question that we ask all our guests, which is, how did you first become interested in wrestling?
So it might have been, I might be misremembering, but my first like vivid memory of watching wrestling or being, exposed to wrestling. I used to stay over my dad's house every weekend because him and my parents split pretty early. And if memory serves correct, I was probably like 5 or 6 years old by this point. My dad worked nights, so he would like pick me up from my mom's house, bring me to his apartment, just kind of leave for work at whatever time, maybe like midnight, 1 o'clock. I wasn't awake, it doesn't matter. So then like in the morning when I would wake up, he would always leave like a particular tape in the VCR player thing, so I would just hit play. Like he just taught me the bare essentials. Like, all right, you want to watch this tape, just do the thing. And then I guess like one morning, like maybe he forgot to do it or something, so I like had to figure out how to turn the TV on. I didn't really have like a concept of what the TV was. To me, the TV was just the VCR. I didn't know that there were like TV shows or like other things happening on TV. I thought it was just there to project my fantasies of whatever they were, Terminator 2 or whatever. So I guess I must have stumbled upon whatever the first channel was, and the first channel was showing me a Papa Shango vignette, and I was like, excuse me, what am I watching right now? And like that's the first actual vivid memory I have of wrestling. And then I guess like the video store by the house I like grew up in Queens, there was a video store nearby, and they had just a very like weird assortment of wrestling videotapes. So like my introduction was great, but it was like out of order. So like I would watch like SummerSlam 92 one week and then like WrestleMania 6 the next week. So I had no idea what was going on. I just knew that I liked Shawn Michaels. I didn't care if he was rocker Shawn Michaels or like assless chap Shawn Michaels. I just liked Shawn Michaels. So like also that kind of like messed with my face heel alignment when I was younger. So like I just liked who I liked. So like when the Bret and Shawn fan rivalry, not even the Bret and Shawn actual rivalry, when the Bret and Shawn fan rivalry began in the late 90s, like when it started getting real hot and heavy, I was like, I like them both, whatever, I don't care. So like that whole thing kind of like messed with, again, like my alignment of who I liked, who I was into. And yeah, and then like other family members liked it, and they helped foster that. And like one of my cousins, I think, gave me, it was it was some WCW home video called Greatest Grudges. I still want to find I want to buy it just to like have it because it like holds so it's so like important to me as like a wrestler and a wrestling fan. And that messed with me too because like obviously I was a kid, so I didn't know like how capitalism worked. So I just thought that like it was just one big company that everyone wrestled for and everyone just did. So like I turn on NWA, this tape, it has like NWA and WCW stuff, and I was like, what the hell is it? And it looks like AWA because I, you know, like you remember like the old weird logo they had where like the N and the W are like kind of mixed. So like that made it even worse because then I bought my first wrestling magazine and they were talking about AWA. I think AWA was like definitely gone by this point, but they were still referring to like guys who were there like Nick Bockwinkel or, you know, Kurt Hennig or whatever. And I was like, oh, so it's just big one huge company and that's it. Like it's great. So I didn't figure out that like WCW and WWF were completely different like competing companies until probably like 1997. So I was just like I thought like WCW was to WWF what like NXT is to WWE now. I thought it was just like I figured like Hogan didn't leave WWF. They just sent him to a different show to work with the new guys. You know, like in my head at the time that's what it was. So yeah, very long explanation for Papa Shango was I think the first thing I ever watched wrestling related.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it's funny too because like when I was growing up, my association was always like, okay, WCW is the colorful one. Like they were the one that had the different colored like turnbuckle pads and stuff like
Yeah. That's
that.
the other like that was the other reason I think I thought that WCW was like kind of the feeder league or whatever. Not those weren't my words for it. Cause like the production was so drastically different, like aesthetically from WWF. Cause they just had like Turner employees filming it. They didn't have like guys who knew anything about wrestling. They were just like, all right, Bob, tonight you're on the wrestling shift, you know? So like people like the production was like drastically different and they didn't really know how to like shoot it correctly most of the time. So yeah, that's interesting. You brought that up because that made me think of that other weird like visual kind of separation I had with them, which is why I thought, you know, WCW was like the CZW to WWE's whatever.
Yeah. And it's funny because if anything, it was the other way around. Like the
Yeah,
WWF guys were jumping ship to.
yeah, exactly.
Uh, cool. So my follow up to that is then what made you actually decide to start training to become a wrestler and pursuing it? Uh,
So, um, as we might delve into later, I started doing backyard wrestling in junior high school. What made me want to start doing it was like probably Mick Foley at some point, just kind of something snapped at me. I think when I watched SummerSlam '92 for the first time when I was whatever like 6 or 7, I was like, all right, this looks. I didn't know how it worked. Like I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to like eat a lot and become 7 feet tall, but like I'm, you know, like I gotta become a wrestler, you know, like I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I just gotta get big, like big and jacked, you know. It was like I started working out when I was like because my stepfather had a bunch of weights. So I think I was like probably like 7, just like doing whatever curls or I couldn't tell you. I was just lifting things in a direction. Um, so yeah, like I think just Mick Foley's like rise to prominence and like reading his book, I was like, oh, so you like got to train to become a wrestler. Like you have to go to like some guy's backyard or farm or whatever and just like fall in a boxing ring. Like, all right, I'll do that then, whatever. But I was, you know, like 12, so I was like, well, I can't really do that right now. So yeah, I started doing the backyard wrestling thing in late 1999, and then one of the kids. So it was like literally like in this dude's parents' backyard. He built a ring made of like wood and mattresses, which is cool because no one's gonna get hurt, but it's not cool because it makes no noise when you fall on it. So one of the guys it like rained or something, and we actually had respect for our employees where we didn't make them go out and wrestle in the rain. So he would film like interview shows in the guy's room upstairs, and he had this glass door between the kitchen and the bath or and the bedroom. So the one dude got hucked into the glass door and got like had to get like 50 stitches in his head or something like that. So that was like, all right, no more wrestling, no more wrestling around the house. So I don't know if you're like familiar with like the Doghouse. It was where like Homicide and like Dan Moff and Loki and all those guys like either like started the place or got their start. So we started doing our crappy backyard shows there every other Sunday. Like none of us were trained. I think the guy who ran the backyard promotion was like kind of trained. So he was like, all right, this is like how you like don't kill each other. Like that's pretty much all we were taught was like how to not kill each other. Um so yeah, we did that and I like kind of learned how to do a few things. But again, I was like 14, so what was I going to do? You know, like I didn't have like when Tough Enough came around the first time, I think I was like I don't know, probably like 13 or 14. I was like, man, if I was 18, I 100% would have been one of those guys who couldn't like do 100 jumping jacks or whatever they had him doing, or like doing jump rope. I would have been on that highlight reel. I would have been like the highlight of that highlight reel. They'd be like, oh yeah, look at this, look at this idiot. It was just like, yeah, I'm gonna become a wrestler. And they're like, you know, JR's be like, oh, you look like you just gave a litter of pups. You know, like that would have been me, 100%. I would have been 18, old enough to do it. I would have been the laughing stock of first episode of Tough Enough season 1. But yeah, I just learned how to do the basic stuff, and then like the Doghouse closed down in 2002, and I still was not old enough to like really actually become like a proper wrestler. So I just took a bunch of years off, and then in like 2013, well, actually, when Cole Cabana's podcast started, I started listening to it, and I was like, man, I kind of want to actually get into this, like, because I wasn't really doing anything with my life. Like, I dropped out of college because I was just like couldn't afford textbooks and I was working full time and I just like I couldn't do it. I don't have the attention span for certain things, especially like if I already see it's going bad. I'm just like, all right, I'm done. And then one of my trainers, Pat Buck, had a podcast and he talked about how he had a school in Jersey. So I scouted a few schools in the general New York area by going to their shows and seeing what kind of production they have and more importantly, what the students were doing. And then I went to Pat's show and like 10 of the students were on his show. And when I went to other schools, you know, all the students are standing around wearing security guard shirts. And I was like, oh, I obviously know where I want to go. And it's not to be a security guard, you know? So I went to Pat's school and I was, you know, taught the right way. It took me a little longer than everyone else, but I was taught the correct way to do the wrestling stuff. So yeah, once again, long answer to very short question, but it
No,
happens.
I love comprehensive. We always joke that we're the Joe Rogan experience of wrestling podcasts. You know, long form. Um, what's it been like to train at Creative Pro? Because like as far as I feel like as far as wrestling schools in the Northeast are concerned, and this is no diss to our friends at Team 3D Academy, but like Creative Pro has been on fire the last few years,
Yeah.
just in terms of producing good talent. So what's your experience been like training there?
So when I first started training, Creative Pro wasn't even a thing yet because like I think Hawkins had some downtime from TV, so I started training with Pat Buck at a school in Rahway, New Jersey. Well, actually, originally it wasn't even in Rahway because then like Hurricane Sandy happened, so the Rahway Rec Center like closed down for a few years because like the air quality was like it was just destroyed, and plus like they're right in front of I think it's the Rahway River, so like obviously all that water just like destroyed the building. So I started training with Pat at the Metuchen Sportsplex where we had to set up and break down the ring every single week, which, you know, it taught me a lot, but it was, you know, it was a pain in the ass, but whatever, it was fun. I made some good friends there. And when Creative Pro started, it was significantly closer to my house, but I was like so set in my routine of taking the train to Jersey 3 nights a week that I was like, I'm just gonna keep doing this. Why not? Um, Meanwhile, like I saw like the people at Creative Pro were already like getting all these really cool opportunities, and all of them were like really good, really early on. Like obviously, like I was I was probably one of MJF's like first like 10 matches, you know what I mean, or maybe like 20 matches or whatever. So like I got to see all those guys like develop, like Caster and Bronson and Chris Statlander and all those people. So like I just got to watch them like become stars basically like right in front of me. Um, I started going there full time in like mid 2017, And like I didn't really know. I felt like I had to kind of like reacclimate myself to things, even though like like yeah, they were like again like Caster started training not too long after me, and like Max everyone. But I just had to like reacclimate myself to the creative pro style, where it was like everything like you're expected to do things correctly, otherwise like you know you're gonna fall behind very quickly. And obviously, anyone who like watches weekly wrestling TV will figure that out by watching the primary people who are on the shows on weekly TV. That yeah, Creative Pro is like legit. Again, like obviously, like I haven't gotten to that. I haven't gotten to some of those people's levels yet. Which that's on me, and that's like it's very like creative training a creative pro is very accountability based. So like if you're not producing, if you're not putting in putting in the work, which I thought I was for a long time, but like then you kind of, especially like with the pandemic, like you gotta take a step back and be like, oh wow, I'm not like I was putting in the work, but I was putting in like what I thought was the work, but like I don't know. You just gotta like it's like a different level training at Creative Pro, because again, like people there are guys who have been there like 2 months who are already like really good, like way ahead of what when I was 2 months in, I could barely do like a leapfrog. Like it's astounding to watch like some of the other guys who have been there for a handful of months who are like who can already have like kind of have like on the fly matches with like out calling stuff beforehand and like look reasonably convincing and not like a deer in the headlights. Like yeah, it's a completely different atmosphere there, and like it's good. Like it's a friendly, like not friendly, like family atmosphere, but like yeah, it's also very you gotta be on your toes all the time and working harder than everyone else. Otherwise, you're just gonna float. And again, I think like anyone who watches weekly wrestling television will see what Creative Pro has to offer, and will that's exemplified on television every week. So yeah.
That's awesome. And I saw actually, yeah, that Brian Myers tweeted, I think it was like last week or a couple weeks ago, about like that goal setting.
Yeah.
That was really cool. Like that there's that like goal oriented
Yeah.
approach.
Or like Pat, it's funny too, because like before, again, I would go to Cap like once a month, twice a month to train, because again, it was like I lived in Queens at the time, so it was like technically closer to me. But again, I had my weird like ritual where I was like, all right, I have to train the Jersey, and then whatever. Um, Pat had us doing that. I didn't even know like Brian. I didn't even know they did it at like Cap, but Pat would just have us write down like 3 people we want to wrestle that year, and that actually led to me eventually wrestling Grado in like late 2016, because I think it was like holidays had just passed and I had like a week and a half off from work, so I was just like watching weird stuff on YouTube, and I came across Grado's like Vice documentary, because I'd heard him on Cole Kamau's podcast, but I never actually seen him wrestle. And then like I just went on this deep dive of Grado stuff, and I was like, this guy's brilliant. I love this. So like I literally like Pat had us write down 3 people that we want to wrestle in whatever year that was. So it was 2016, and I remember I wrote down Jeff Jarrett, Dan Moff, and I couldn't think of a third one, and everyone was done except me. And Pat was like, all right, like you've had like 20 minutes. I was like, I can't think of anyone. Like there's a million people I want to have matches with. Like, what am I gonna say? He's like, I don't know, just think of something. So I was like, oh shit. So I had to like do like a real Hail Mary, and I was like, he's not gonna bring him in. And I just wrote Grado, and Pat was like, oh, that'd be kind of funny. And then like literally 2 months later, he was like, hey, so no guarantees, but I kind of started talking to this guy, so it might happen. We'll see. And then ended up happening. But yeah, so like that whole like goal setting thing has been, I'm not I'm not really much of a finish line person, because things change all the time. Obviously, we know that now. Like the three actual goals I wrote down, like I had like the people I wanted to wrestle, and like Nick Gage is one of them, and I ended up wrestling, which Brian mentioned in his tweet. But like my actual like legitimate wrestling goals were pretty much improbable last year because of things as they were. But yeah, the gold thing is pretty important as it turns out, even though I've tried to deny it and avoid it for so long.
That's rad. I fucking love Grado. Whenever I need like a mood boost, I go and watch the his entrance, the Grado Berg thing. I just need a good laugh. Um, but yeah, no, that's with everyone talking about like manifesting stuff, for the new year, that's just important thing to return to. Um, so you obviously underwent a bit of a transformation, rebranding. I know it's an intense experience doing our podcast there.
Why am I sweating so much? Anyway, sorry.
You don't have to be.
Great content.
Yeah,
That is some quality content.
this is what people are paying for. Um, so you underwent like a bit of a transformation, rebranding, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Some time ago, moving from the now dearly departed CPA, may he rest,
Yeah.
To Nick Stapp. So what was sort of the thought process behind that transformation?
I don't know. It was just like something I wanted to do for a while. Like I genuinely enjoyed, doing the CPA bit, and I had some really great, I had some good memories there. And obviously, that's like a back pocket thing, or like no matter, like literally, I'd say 90% of the people I know in wrestling will still call me CPA, and probably will until we stop talking. I'm in I'm in my dad's phone as CPA. Like that's how deep this goes.
Oh wow.
Um, but I don't know. I saw the CPA transformation kind of started in like early 2019 probably, and it was a very slow build because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I literally like kind of just figured out what I wanted to do with it like a few months ago. But yeah, no, it was I think part of it was I wanted to do it, and people were kind of telling me things that I wanted to hear about it. So I just took that as like, yeah, just do it, whatever. Um, but yeah, I think at the time I saw a ceiling with it, and I think maybe things have changed a little bit as far as like, like Orange Cassidy is like a top guy on TV now, and he's a great wrestler. Don't get me wrong, but he's a comedy guy. As far as like people like people don't know, like they'll say like, oh man, Orange Cassidy, that great wrestler guy. They're like, no, he does the thing. He has all the things about him. And the wrestling is just like an exclamation mark on his whole presentation. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to try something else. That was really that, like, to bottom line. I just wanted to try something else because I saw that. It's a weird kind of, it's like almost like a toxic thing with like modern indie wrestling where like you can have a match in front of a live crowd and get this great response and everything, but then of course you're going to go on your phone later and you're going to look at your stupid Twitter feed and your Instagram feed, and you're going to see, well, one or two people tweet about me, but like 900 people tweeted about the guy who just had like a really solid wrestling match. So like stuff like that kind of gets to you too. I don't want to turn this into a mental health podcast because there's enough of that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm making a lot about it. I just want to try something else. That's pretty much, just wanted to try something new and see what other avenues I could cover. And again, it took a long time to get even to the point I'm at now, which is obviously because of the way things are now. It can only go so far. But I'm having fun with what I'm doing now. So I don't know. It's an open canvas now, and I'm fine with that. And I think I'm having fun and like making the most of it with what I have right now at my disposal. So yeah, just trying new stuff.
More power to you, honestly. Like, especially during the time of like the pandemic, it's like, why not use that chance? It's like a time, especially for reinvention, even though it started beforehand. Like now's more of a time than ever.
Yeah, exactly. it's just been like sitting at home and just like having time to think about stuff. So like literally I've gone through like multiple kind of like arcs over the past year because I was like, I don't know, like there's no one to try any of this stuff out in front of, so I don't really know what to do. So I was just kind of like, all right, maybe I'll try this, and maybe we did the phone thing for a while, and then we did like the like kind of like motivational poster thing for a few months. I don't know. It's just been like just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks pretty much. Um, but you know, that being said, there is something to be said for internet content versus like physical presentation, and that I think is where I've been. Again, there's not a lot of opportunities to present yourself in person in front of people, so that's been kind of the rough around the edges part of transforming and trying new things. But yeah, I don't know, everyone seems to be on the internet now, so hopefully I could get as much of that audience as possible before we go back to being normal whenever that happens.
Yeah. I mean, it's been interesting because I originally knew you as CPA as a fan before I even got started with promoting and everything. And, CPA was very entertaining, but at the same time, like Nick Stapp just feels a lot more like organic, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. And there's
yeah.
some like, and that definitely translates to, somebody as a fan
Mhm.
watching. So kind of related to that, because you were mentioning like folks like Orange Cassidy before. Comedy wrestling has been, a very hot button issue over the last, couple years, um, even though it's always been a part of wrestling.
Yes.
Uh, but I wanted to know what are your thoughts on, comedy and its place in wrestling?
So I guess where I stand is like obviously I grew up watching Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, stuff like that, which is presented as real wrestling. It's not presented as a joke necessarily. But if you watch it, it's a lot of kind of goofy theatrics. Like Hulk Hogan gets basically shot, everything short of shot in the face for a half hour. And then suddenly he gets his face and he starts shaking his body violently. And all of a sudden he wins, you know? So, like, I do understand people's argument with like comedy wrestling is, you know, comedy is like ruining wrestling or it's like making it cartoonish. I think it's very possible to be cartoonish without or to like some of the stuff that's presented on television, particularly on Monday nights nowadays, is like I it's not even like comedy. It's just like it doesn't make sense necessarily sometimes. Um I mean, I guess that's all wrestling right now, but I think it's very possible to have funny, entertaining wrestling without it necessarily like ruining wrestling or exposing the business or whatever. Um Again, like you like guys like Max Caster, like he does funny raps and he does like kind of weird like facials and stuff during his match. But at the end of the day, you know him, you know he's a good wrestler. You know what I mean? I think it's very possible to, you know, to have comedy and wrestling without it necessarily. Is that a title fight shirt? Sorry, I got
It is a title fight.
distracted. I heard what is it, Head in the Ceiling fan the first time a few months ago. Wow.
I'm I love Title Fight. I'm not
What
as much a fan of their newer stuff, but Last Thing You Forget is
Yeah, I still have to delve deeper into it, but I heard that song a few months ago. Actually, Bear Bronson got me. He was like, Nick, I think you would like this song. And it was like a really weird morning, and I was just like already in kind of a weird mood. I was just like, all right, you got me. It took a toll on me emotionally. But anyway, um, yeah, I think it's very possible to yeah, like Big Game Leroy, like he does the switch shit and he does like weird shit like that. But I thought like I don't know. I think to a casual audience that isn't insulting necessarily. You know what I mean? I don't. I just. I think there are levels where like you could make an argument like this is a little too much probably. But I think far and wide, most of the stuff that like some of the stuff that's like getting over on TV and people are responding to it. There's a reason, and that's because they want something. They want something that's like kind of relatable. I think like that's where I kind of hit at least, you know, I don't know if I struck gold, but I definitely struck like bronze with CPA in certain respects, because like it was goofy and stuff like that, but like it was, I mean, let's, you know, I don't want to insult anyone, but let's be realistic here. Like a lot of wrestling fans are people who like wouldn't wrestle, you know, like they wouldn't get in a ring and wrestle in front of people because they're like self-conscious, or they're like they have like, you know, self-esteem issues. So I think stuff like that, you know, like Cole Cabana does a lot of goofy stuff, but he's a great wrestler, don't get me wrong, but like that's stuff that like I think a lot of just general wrestling fans are like, oh, like that's something I would want to do, but I wouldn't do it because I'm not confident enough to go do something like that. So I feel like certain levels of comedy wrestling kind of transcend the wrestling part of it, and they go into more of like a visceral, like psychological thing where it's like that's something that's like probably stuff that like someone thought of, and they were like, I would never do that though because I don't want to be a wrestler because I'm not confident enough to become a wrestler. So yeah, I think comedy wrestling definitely hits people where they live sometimes, and I think that's why, at least I'd say like 75% of it is, to me, perfectly acceptable. Some of it, some of it goes a little crazy, but I don't know, that I'm not the one to make the call on what's right and what's wrong, but I'm just, from my perspective, and being that I do a lot of comedy wrestling, I have done a lot of comedy wrestling, the general feedback I get from people is that, like the one thing, especially like at the height of the CPA run, where I was like, because like most of the reason I did CPA is because I wasn't really that good at wrestling at the time, and I was still training, and I didn't feel confident trying to be a real wrestler, so I did that while I was getting better at actually wrestling through, like during training during the week. And a lot of people definitely like didn't know why that's the reason I was doing it, but they felt it, and they were like, oh, like I look at you and I'm like, I could probably do that if I really, really tried. And they're like, I could tell you're really trying, but you're also like very self-conscious about what you're doing. So that's why you do things the way that you do them. So yeah, I don't know. Once again, long answer to, I think comedy wrestling is, again, it's more of a personal vibe to a lot of people, because, everybody likes to laugh and do goofy shit in front of their friends, but not everyone wants to. So that's why certain comedy wrestlers are here to do it for them, basically.
I also feel like it attracts such like a unique audience. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like it's so much like you have wrestling fans that are just niche. Like they're gonna like wrestling for wrestling. But comedy wrestling, I feel like brings in outside fans, being like, hey, like they weren't really into wrestling before, but they saw this and they liked your shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's like, I'd say at least 50% of the people who were like really hardcore wrestling fans didn't really like wrestling. They just liked the type of stuff that I was doing. And I think, and even, crazy old Jim Cornette will say, like, it's okay. Like, you can have comedy wrestling if it's just one guy on the show doing comedy wrestling. When it's 20 people on the show doing it, then it becomes kind of overkill. So I know that's not a popular person to reference or a popular opinion, but it's true. Like, most of the time I was the most like outlandish thing on the show. And that's why people were like, all right, like, Dan Moth and so had a really good match, or these guys had like a real like crazy crazy hardcore match, but like the CPA guy did something different, and he did something that, like, I would rather watch that than be overwhelmed with people like bleeding all over the place, or like doing 20 minutes of wrist locks. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with 20 minutes of wrist locks, but not everyone wants to watch that. Some people want to watch the goofy stuff. So
For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it is true about like bringing in like the like a new fan base. Like I have friends who aren't into wrestling at all, but they'll send me clips from like DDT in Japan, being
yeah,
like, you should do this. You should book someone like this. And I'm like,
yeah. And like ultimately, like my ultimate goal in wrestling is to, and I know this is a very lofty, insane goal, but I want to get people into wrestling who don't like wrestling. And I know that's kind of dumb. And a lot of people in wrestling are like, no, you can't do that anymore. Like people aren't, there's not going to be a wrestling boom again. Like it's over. Um, but I feel duty bound to bring people back into it because again, when I was a kid, 10 million people watch wrestling every week. I'm not saying I'm going to get, 7 million more people to watch it every week, but I would like to, or at least I'd like to try doing that and find ways to get. I think there's 8 billion people on Earth. Why not? Give it a shot.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah, I think so. It's just you gotta. I feel like everything is so impulsive nowadays with the way people consume things that it's hard to put time into a concept or a character or like an angle, a storyline, whatever, to be like, all right, like people are really latching onto this, but they might turn it off in 2 seconds because they got to go watch, whatever America's Next Top Model. I don't even know if that's on anymore. That's the first
I have no
first
idea.
show that came to mind. Yeah, or someone's gonna go watch Hell's Kitchen, or someone's gonna go, watch a TikTok of a dog doing like the Busset challenge or whatever. So like it's hard to it's hard to like mentally commit to something because again, like there's no like destination viewing anymore. Everyone's like all over the place and doing whatever they want to do, because there's like literally like your phone, your watch, your glasses, like everything has an outlet for something you could be doing other than watching people wrestle in their underwear on TV. So that's the hard part. But I think it's doable. I think it's doable.
Yeah. No, I mean that's always been our goal too with Invictus. And the funny thing is that like you were just saying, like people won't the problem is that people won't seek out wrestling anymore. But for example, our last two events have been outdoors in public places. And
Mhm.
at both shows, it was like for example, at the most recent show, November Rain, we were outside of a sports arena. So we had like a Pee Wee hockey team was getting out of practice, and they're just like, them and their families like just sort of stopped in the parking lot and like watched. So it's like when you put it in front of people, or you put it like in their path, like people will stop and watch it. So the question is, how do you get eyes on it?
Yeah.
Because once they see it and once they understand what it's all about, I mean, it's two like 250-pound guys just like fighting in a ring. Like, of course you're going to stop and look at it. So
Yeah. I think I like your first show, the opening match was like I think it was Wrecking Ball and Clipper Jones, if I'm not mistaken. And I was like, this is like such a good opening match. Like if you just have people walking by, they see like this big fucking just like weird looking dude, fucking Wrecking Ball Ligursky, and like Clipper Jones just looks like this scrappy athlete dude, and like I would stop and watch that because like it's a aesthetically and just like stylistically, like it just and the way they did it and like the way it was paced, like it was like perfect. Like it looked like it didn't like look like a fight, like they weren't like struggling and like beating the shit out of each other, but for me at least, like I'd watch that and be like, all right, like I want to get behind the smaller guy, obviously, you know what I mean? So like I don't know, I feel like that was like the perfect opening match for like if people were just walking by and they're like, oh wow, like I want to see what the smaller guy does to the bigger guy. I don't know. It's just so like stuff like that, you do need to have uh a visual struggle going on before you can kind of expect people to just show up, because then if you have two guys my size just doing chain wrestling for an hour, it's like, well, that's cool and all, but I don't know. Again, that's just my personal taste, but like stuff like that I think is really what gets people into like, like David and Goliath type stuff, whatever. You get where I'm going with this.
yeah, no, absolutely. And it did work because there was a paintball birthday party happening at that venue at the same time, and all the kids
Yeah,
just stopping and staring. It was like Children of the Corn. They were just
exactly.
standing out in the field watching the wrestling. So we were talking before about goals. So do you have like a favorite match or moment that you've been a part of?
Man, that's like the Grado match again, like still very special to me. Even though I got a concussion during the match and like the most like innocent, stupid looking thing on earth. The Grado match. I had like the hair versus song match with Striker. I think, oh my god, it was like almost 2 years ago now. I keep forgetting that like we're not in 2020 anymore because it was like such a long yet like fast year. Yeah, like that match was super fun and like just kind of like a special moment. Um, I don't know, like or like we don't team up anymore, but like when Kip and I won the Cap tag titles, like that was like a cool moment because like Brian, like Hawkins was like really happy and like he seemed like genuinely like kind of like geeked out watching it. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I've had one of my first singles matches was with EC3, and I still like love that match even though I was terrible at the time. But like I don't know if you've ever seen I want to say it was like early 2000. It was Taka Michinoku like challenged Triple H for the WWF title.
Yeah.
We literally had that match, just not Taka Michinoku. It was me. But like I still like every time I see him, I'm like, man, like thank you. Like you did not have to do that for me. But like he helped me out a lot, you know, with stuff like that. I don't know. I just have even though like maybe at the time it didn't seem special, like there's a lot of things that have aged very well in my heart and in my emotions. Yeah, like I used to team up with Balls Mahoney and those matches were god awful because like I wasn't good at the time. Balls Mahoney could barely walk, but it was fun to have that experience of like teaming up with a guy who I literally was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up. Like I don't know if you saw, I just put up like I just made a song about like my match. It was me and Balls against New Jack and another guy I'm friends with, Delroy, who doesn't wrestle anymore, I guess. At the literally, like I didn't have enough time to explain everything I got out of that match, including the scene afterwards where I literally like stood by my bag. It was at Starland Ballroom. We were getting changed in the kitchen, and I stood by my bag and I was like, I think I'm going to quit. Like, not even just like put up a Facebook post like, hey guys, I think I'm done wrestling. I was literally going to leave, get in my car, drive away, and never come back and never like just delete my existence from the internet. I was like, I'm like ashamed of myself that I just participated in that match. But watching it the other day and like writing a song for it, I was like, that was kind of fun, you know? It was fun in like a goofy sort of damaging way as far like psychologically, but stuff like that is fun because how many people can say that they got to watch a very drunk New Jack wrestle a mostly crippled Balls Mahoney, and then afterwards, like we get to the back and Balls is like, man, that was great, thanks Jack, and I'm like, what the fuck, that was horrible. But now 5 years later, I'm like, that was like Balls' second to last match. Like that's kind of special to me. I don't know. So yeah, there's just I have a lot of moments. I mean, like my match with Verna on your first show was fun because I'd never wrestled Verna. That was like, I think that was my first time wrestling in front of a crowd since the pandemic started, and we wrestled for like 20 minutes. I was like, oh, I could still kind of do stuff, you know, like all the training, in my like doing burpees in the basement, I guess kind of paid off because I can still physically move for 20 minutes more or less nonstop and have it not be a complete train wreck. So yeah, I don't know. I as I've gotten older in wrestling and had like highs, lows, and creamy middles, I've come to appreciate things a little more and find something good in most things. Not all matches, but you know, I'd say like 90% of them I could be like, oh, this was kind of cool. Like just find a little moment in the match because like, I don't know, every match could be my last match. Every day could be my last day. So I don't know. You just gotta. I'm just trying to like grab little positives out of things, which I've never done before in my life. So might as well start now. You know.
It's so true. And it's interesting, yeah, that you bring that up because I get asked sometimes, like, for guys who are trying to get booked, like, like what matches they should like, send and show me. And it's like, if you have a match that's special to you, but it doesn't necessarily check any of the boxes of like, a technical match, like what a match is supposed to be like, I'd rather see the one that like means more to you, because if it's special to you for whatever reason, that's gonna come through for somebody watching it. So no, I definitely agree with that. Um, what are some of your, I mean, obviously things are still a bit uncertain with the pandemic, but do you have any like goals or resolutions in wrestling for 2021?
Currently, I guess just get in the best shape I can, get as good as I can, and kind of, I don't know, just make some, oh yeah, like just going back to like the very core of everything, just get more, put myself in a position where I can get more people into wrestling through what I'm doing. I mean, obviously, like there's other people there, but get, because there are guys in wrestling right now who are drawing not necessarily wrestling crowds and wrestling fan bases. So I want to do that through, again, like that's why I like doing the music thing, because I feel like maybe a music fan could be like, oh, I like this dude's song and he also wrestles, so let me watch that,
Yeah.
So yeah, just put myself in a position, stature wise or vision, presentation wise, where I can reach more people and get non-wrestling fans back into wrestling. Be that through wrestling on television or wrestling on like a bigger stage than I'm currently on, then that's what we have to do. But yeah, ultimately just through osmosis of watching the people around me get really good and get in really good spots and get the money and stature that comes with being really good at wrestling. Yeah, I just want to do stuff like that. I like, at the end of the day, I guess it's not all about like, oh, I need to sign a contract, but I do want to put myself in that position where I can, make some sort of changes in what's going on right now. So I don't know when that's going to be possible, because life is what it is right now, but I'm trying. I'm certainly trying. From whatever I can do, I'm trying.
It's all you can ask for,
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of 2021, social media title tournament is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Your first round match against Clipper Jones is going to be airing this coming Friday. Winner
Nice.
against Big Game Leroy. What are your spoiler-free thoughts on that?
Yeah, so like I watched, again, like your first show. I watched Clipper Jones's, and like I found out like it was like one of his first matches, or like his first match or whatever, his first match in front of people. I was like, oh, this guy's pretty good. And then like, so when I found out that I had to wrestle him, I was like, oh, okay, so now I have to like, I gotta scout him a little bit. But I was like, I already scouted him. It's his first match. What else can he do? Like what else could he have learned? Like unless he's killing it at the dojo or whatever, learning new stuff. I don't know. So and also, like, as a Met fan, the name Clipper Jones rhymes with Chipper Jones, and I'm not a huge fan of that. But no, I'm leaving my expectations open, because again, I don't know what he's been doing. I don't text him every day, so I don't know like if he's been training or if he's just been sitting at home chilling. I don't know what he's doing. So I gotta see. I'm very, very interested to see what the Clipper man has to bring to the table here. And I'm getting a haircut the day before the match, so if he wants to cut my hair, he's not gonna have a lot to work with. So psychology.
He's been watching a lot of anime. That's what he's been doing.
What's that?
He's been watching a lot of anime. That's what he's been doing.
Okay.
That's his training regimen.
I'm not like a Fist of the North Star villain daddy guy, so I don't know. I don't know if that tape study is going to work out for him.
Awesome. Last question I have for you before we go into the fan questions is what music have you been listening to lately?
Oh boy. The new Taylor Swift album is, I don't know if do you cuss on this podcast?
Yes, we have been for like the last hour.
I didn't notice. I guess. I drive a lot, so I say a lot of cusses. So I think when I hear other people do it, it just kind of like it just flies over my head. The new Taylor Swift album is fucking amazing. She's put out 3 bangers in the last year and a half. So like little side story here. I matched with the girl on Tinder like a month ago, and her bio said something like, "Oh, I like metalhead guys." And like my first message to her was like, "Well, I was a metalhead when I was younger, but now I still like metal, but I also listen to like Taylor Swift and Halsey now. So I hope that doesn't affect our chemistry here." And she basically, in so many words, was like, "You're a loser because you're listening to Taylor Swift." And then like not even 2 days later, Taylor Swift came out with Evermore, and I hit her up. I was like, well, Taylor Swift has come out with 3 banger albums in the last year and a half, while you're probably still waiting for like a typo negative fucking deluxe version of something to come out 90 years later. So enjoy that. I'll talk to you later. And that was it. That I just got into someone I know just got me into this band Thick. It's like an all-girl band out of Brooklyn, and they're amazing. Um I don't know. Like Juice World, obviously, like I'm still kind of getting deep into Juice World. This other band, Suicide Boys. It's like I think it's these 2 dudes from New Orleans, and they do like it's very spooky. I don't know, like it's very like spooky rap, but it's really good. Like they have I don't want to get too morbid here, but the one line that they have in the song that like blew me away. Um It was like, I used to be a motherfucking reject, but now I cut my wrists and now I motherfucking bleed checks. And I was like, oh, bro, I was at the gym when I heard it. I was like, what did he just say? Excuse me? I had to listen to it like 8 times. I was like, yo, my man just dropped some fire. Yeah, I don't know. I've just been, Spotify's great. I know a lot of people don't like Spotify because they don't pay their artists particularly well. But that being said, I've discovered a lot of good stuff through Spotify. So, yeah, I don't know. Taylor Swift, Suicide Boys, Juice World. I started getting into non-HR era Bad Brain stuff, and that's really good. Like when was his name Israel Joseph started listening to them. That's like some really good stuff. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on the day, really. I don't know. I'll get to the gym and I'll see like a thing that reminds me of another thing, and then I'll just listen to that while I'm working out. It depends.
Very eclectic. I like that. Um,
I'm a very moody person, so it just things just fly by the seat of our pants around here.
I'm very much the same way. So that concludes our questions. Mr. Goutman, you got some questions from the IG?
I do.
Hold on, I gotta fix the lighting. The lighting was really good when we first started. Now I feel like, unless I'm like aging as we're doing this,
You might be. It's the podcast of Dorian Gray.
So I wanted to first actually talk to you about your ink. I'm a big tattoo guy myself. I wanted to just know a little bit about like how many tattoos you have. I was like, keeping everything during the first show. Is that a mustache on your belly button?
It is a mustache on my belly button, specifically Keith Hernandez of Met fame mustache. I came up with that. I don't know. I was very much unemployed and probably drinking too much at the time. Originally, what I wanted to do was get the mustache over my belly button and like a cigarette hanging out the bottom of it. I'm glad I didn't do that second part. Slightly not super glad I did the first part. Yeah, that's a mustache above my belly button. I kind of want to like get that covered up. It's kind of stupid. Not kind of stupid. It's very stupid. Actually, when I had a match on 205 Live a few years ago, and one of the comments on the YouTube video was that guy has an abnormally large belly button.
Why was it?
So
did it like blend in?
Yeah, kinda, because like the wide camera angle, so it did kind of look like I just had a really big belly button and not necessarily like a stupid tattoo above it. I have the Misfits tattoo. That was my first tattoo. I don't particularly hate any of my tattoos. I just wish I would have gotten them in different spots, because it's just like it doesn't really make sense. Like I have one here and I have one here and whatever.
Like the total count?
I think I want to say I have like 7 or 8.
Oh,
The
nice.
the turtle one that I have on my leg is the last one I got, and that was like 2015. That was my mom's friend who was like, she wasn't my aunt properly, but she was like basically an aunt to me. She passed away in late 2014. So me, my mom, my stepfather, my sister, and my brother all got like tattoos commemorating her. And she had, the last few years she was alive, she had this like little like trailer house in Pennsylvania, and she had like these turtle figurines outside of her house, so that I got the turtle for her. I don't know, most of my like I have like 2 tattoos that were like stick and poke that a girl I used to date, her friend would do them, and we were just like, yeah, sure, put a triangle on my arm. Again, kind of regrettable, but what are you gonna do? I can always get them covered up or just cut my skin off and hope it grows back. I don't know.
Is there any like ones that stand out in terms of like pain, like any spot that you remember, like, oh, like never again kind of thing?
Oh, the belly button one for sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was horrible. And
Oh,
I was like 30 pounds heavier than I am now back then, but I was just like, every time the guy went in, I had to like take a deep breath and like tense my core and then like tell him when to stop so I could like, okay, and then like take another breath. That was instantly, I was like, what's that?
that shading too. Oh my god.
Yeah, horrible. Horrible, dumb decision on multiple levels, but the pain, I have a pretty high pain tolerance. That was not great. That was, could have done something better with my Saturday. That Saturday.
You definitely live and learn, but hey, you know, at the end of the day, you got a memorable, you know, someone noticed you from 205 Live because of it. You know, it had it had its benefits.
Yeah.
So actually, you know, going along with that, I just wanted to go along with the whole tattoo thing. Vincenzo Galvano asked the first one, and you said it was the forum, right?
Yeah.
And,
This guy, yeah.
What was the story behind it?
What's that?
What was the story behind it?
The Misfits tattoo. I don't know. I just really like the Misfits. Originally, I wanted to get like a theme. Like my left arm was going to be like my adolescence, and then like maybe my right arm was going to be like adult stuff. But we just completely threw that out the window almost immediately by like the third tattoo. I don't know, I just really like the Misfits, and I think the other thing was, and this is like a really dumb reason to get something permanently put on your skin, but I saw other people with the Misfits skull tattoo. I was like, they all look like shit. So I want to get a good one.
Yeah.
And literally, like within 2 months, I was a cashier at CVS at the time when I got it. Which, you know, I see people who like work retail jobs and they're like covered. I'm like, how the fuck do you afford a tattoo? This one was like $100 and I was like hurting from it financially for like a month. So like literally within a month of getting this, I would have like these like old punk rock guys come into my job, be like, yo, you got the Fiend skull? Me too. And they pull up their pant leg and it would just be like a splotch. And I'm like, that's literally why I got it. Like, I got it because I didn't want that. I wanted to have like the only good Fiend Misfit skull tattoo on earth. Again, other people have nice ones, but most of them are bad. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted it, and my dad has a million tattoos. I was like, I gotta get like one at least, so like, you know, I have something to talk to dad about. But I stopped after a while because I was like, this is kind of expensive. I don't know. I feel like later on maybe I'll have a midlife crisis and get like all my ex-girlfriends' names across my shoulder or something like that. Just or like I saw someone, I don't know if it was real, but I saw someone got every Taylor Swift album art and like the track listing tattooed on their back, and I was like, that's interesting. And actually, when I was a kid, my dad and I went to a water park, and a guy at the water park had a similar setup, but I think it was either for Korn or there was Korn. He had every Korn album tattooed on his back with like the track, or no, I think he just had the album art, and I was like, I don't like Korn that much. Like, I don't know. You gotta like really like a band. Like, I liked Korn when I was a kid, and I listen to them now, and I'm like, God, what? That's like one of the few bands I kind of like cringe that I used to listen to. But yeah, I don't know. I just I had really big aspirations. I'm glad at least that I waited until I was 19 to get my first tattoo. So I still have it somewhere. I drew myself when I was like 11, and I drew all the tattoos I was eventually going to want to get. And like most of them I would never get in a million years, except maybe like I had like Austin 316 as my dog is barking like a psychopath in the background. I had like Austin 316 tattooed across my chest and like Pantera across my back and like something on my head. And I was like, yeah, I'm glad I waited a few years, but I still made some dumb decisions with them. So
we're not going to see a baby girl over the eyebrow or anything anytime soon.
Maybe like with a makeup marker, not with not a tattoo though. Little Peep set and like pretty much destroyed the bar with his, so I'm gonna let him have that.
That's very valid. It's like for him, I don't know how it like flows so well. I mean, most of it at the first it like did. Now it's
Yeah.
getting a little with everything,
Yeah.
but yeah. Um, so Gino Gotts
Oh
asks,
my god.
who wins the match? CPA and Larry Zbyszko versus Nick Stapp and Balls.
So I teamed up with Larry Zbyszko in what I'd still believe is probably his last official wrestling match ever. Physically, he could probably do more or less what he was doing in his prime. He just didn't want to. Balls Mahoney was physically incapable of doing pretty much anything, and he did literally what he could physically do, which was punch people and, say funny things. That being said, I don't know. It depends on what kind of week Larry is having, I would say. But I would say Nick Stapp and Balls Mahoney would probably win that tag match, just because CPA wasn't, he was only a young boy. He didn't really know what he was getting himself into, and Larry Zbyszko didn't want to do anything. At least Balls would try. He would throw a chair at someone or something. So yeah.
Just to say if you have objects at your disposal, you don't really need your human body at that point.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, need to. Joey Sweet Cheeks,
Oh, God.
love the name. Asks, do you have a favorite fan?
A favorite fan? Well, being that Joey Sweet Cheeks asked it, I'm going to say that my favorite fan is Rick Santos. No, yeah, Joey Sweet Cheeks is a nice guy. He's a very nice guy. Joey Sweet Cheeks I think he lives in Queens, not necessarily the neighborhood that I grew up in, but I have like a million mutual friends with him. So I like Joey. I like Joey. He's a good dude. I don't know. I don't really have a favorite fan. I guess I guess from the basis of like people who wear my shirts in public, Fala Ba literally would wear CPA shirts like on Impact segments. And he's not necessarily a fan, but he has like almost every shirt I've put out. I don't know. I guess we'll say Joey Sweet Chicks for the sake of argument, because I don't want him to cancel his Patreon membership with you guys, so we'll just do that.
I feel like he was like hoping for that answer in some way.
Yeah. A little bait and switch.
Eric Ayala asks, what was it like in the 205 locker room?
So 205 locker room, they film it right after SmackDown. So pretty much everyone leaves backstage. Like literally like the second SmackDown goes off the air, everyone left. So it was the bare essential people, and like Baron Corbin was still there for some reason. Because during my 205 match, something went a little weird with like a Russian leg sweep, and like one of the Bollywood boys like landed on my leg. So we got to the back. I was fine. It hurt. Don't get me wrong. Like it could have been a lot worse. But like the first person to come and ask me if I was okay was Baron Corbin, and I think he was one of the only people who like didn't have to be there, who stuck around. No, it was fun. Other than that, it was like Rudy Charles from TNA refed my match. Like that's amazing. Like I didn't even like put that together how cool that was until afterwards, like on the drive home. I was like, yo, Rudy Charles just refed my WWE debut. That's pretty cool. It was like there was skeleton crew, just because again everyone's like got to go. This is when house shows are still happening, so everyone was either probably going home or driving or flying to whatever the next town was. So it was fine though.
Yeah.
And then when I was getting my leg checked out afterwards, Daniel Bryan was in the trainer's room, and he was very nice. I'd met him a handful of times before when I was doing extra work. So he's always a nice guy. I'm not saying I'm friends with him. I'm just saying the interactions I've had with him are always very nice. It was fun. Again, skeleton crew, but everyone there was nice and cordial. Scott Armstrong was very nice. Friend of the show, Scott Armstrong, who's the agent for my match, and complimented my dropkick afterwards. So can't ask for more than that.
I was gonna say, what like just an awesome opportunity to have, even if it's like, whatever end of the night kind of thing. It's still just like I can only imagine, but like, do you have like any thoughts of like, being in that ring? Like, I don't know whether it was like, being in the stadium or like, you know, seeing Titantron or anything like that? Was there any like moment that kind of like it hit you, or was it all kind of afterwards?
A lot of it was afterwards, but so like I had done extra work and I had done like segments where I was like, you know, a doctor or a security guy, whatever, back, you know, in the background. That was literally like my first time like walking down the ramp to the ring, and that was like really special to me for some reason. And that's like pretty much all I remember as far as like thinking, like processing, like I'm walking down the ramp. This is pretty cool. Like I finally get to do this, because I was well, like peek behind the curtain. I'm sure plenty of people have stories like this, but I was supposed to have like I think I was supposed to do some sort of match like that at the Garden the September of 2019, and they ended up going with two other people or something. I don't know. Something went wrong there. But the way like the way things work in WWE, it's like literally like things change at the drop of a hat because there's so much going on. But yeah, I was supposed to have a match at Madison Square Garden, and that was like when that didn't happen, I was like, all right, it's not gonna happen. Whatever, it's fine. I'll just try to get hired here eventually, and then just have to do it. But walking down the ramp and just like having everyone stare at me in like guffawed silence because they were just like, we've been watching wrestling for 12 hours.
Yeah.
Like, what is this guy doing? It was still cool though, because I was like, man, I never thought I'd actually do this. Like I had pretty much resigned myself to like, I'm not gonna have that like little moment where like, oh, local guy, whatever. But I did, and it was fun. Yeah, like honestly, as far as like soaking things in, that and there's a very brief clip of me that's gone around the internet a few times where I hit one of them with a drop kick and then I go to the hard cam and I like shake the ropes a few times. And a girl I was with like 2 years ago, when we broke up, she in so many words told me like, you're a fucking loser and this is never gonna work out for you. And the reason I look so impassioned for that half a second or whatever it was, because I thought about that and I was like, fuck this bitch. And I was like, oh shit, I have to like continue wrestling. Yeah, those are literally the only two moments I remember like actually like processing any of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it for the fan questions. I did have one other side question before I moved it back to Alex. Man, nice stain still, man. Rocking it.
I know. I'm actually sweating now.
If you could have one wrestler tattooed on you, who would it be?
Well, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Or some sort of Stone Cold Steve Austin. It would be him or like probably something I like Papa Shango. Like that was like my first. This is the first wrestler I ever discovered, so I'd probably just get something with him or Stone Cold Steve Austin. Oh no, okay, Mick Foley. Sorry, Mick Foley also like a Mankind mask or something. Yeah, those are my three.
Awesome.
Have a lot of fun with a Papa Shango tattoo, I think.
Hell yeah, yeah.
All right, so I got a couple more here. Billy on Twitter asked, "Are you so vain? Did you probably think that Invictus Pro Wrestling's main event with Man of Steel Mike Verna was about you? Hashtag you're so vain."
Yes, it was about me because I was in it. No, yeah, that was. I'm actually not that vain, and that was one of two times I tried to work with that entrance music, but I was like, I feel like if I did that in front of like a crazy, like super smarky indie crowd, they'd probably get it. But like you have more of a casual fan base, so they were just like, whatever.
I popped for it if it's any consolation.
Yeah. I actually the particular one I came out to. So I like the intro to the original version because it's like boom, whatever. But she does a live version where I like the way her voice sounds more. So I mixed those two. So like if you listen to it very closely, when she starts singing, you hear crowd, like you hear like a smattering of applause fading out. So that was my big editing accomplishment for that day. I was like, I'm gonna make this happen. I'm gonna make it without crowd noise, but I'm gonna try to get my favorite part of both versions of the song and throw them together. So yeah.
I like that.
Pretty proud of myself.
Philly Trollman asked on Facebook, all I can ask is, how did it feel single-handedly getting Trapp taken off Twitter? Also, what is your favorite Halsey song? Mine is the one she did talking about never getting older.
The Trapped thing was a large part of my 2020, and it was just like, I understand it was mostly the lead singer who got kind of booted, but there was like a sense of accomplishment where I feel like I definitely contributed to the cause of people not liking Trapped, because like I saw them popping off on Twitter and I was like, guys, let's sit down and talk about this. You guys have one popular song. It's a good song. Headstrong is a good
It is a
song.
very good song.
Yeah, in my opinion, it is a very good song. It ages well, whatever. Can we just leave well enough alone and just have our one good song and not talk about politics and not be trolls and not be annoying and stupid? Because you're like, let's face it, you don't have a huge fan base. Why deplete the little fan base that you have? Um, they didn't like that I said that, and then they said something rude to me, and then they blocked me. I was like, wait a second, hold on. We can't just leave this argument alone. We can't just leave this low-hanging fruit here. Let's do this, you know? So I spent the next like 8 months trying to get them to respond to me, and they didn't, and then they got put off of Twitter. So it was a small victory. Favorite Halsey song? Yikes. She has this song, I think it's I don't know. I don't own a physical album of hers. I'm just like a Spotify fan listener. Um, she has one song called 929 that apparently she's just like, she didn't write any of it. She was just riffing on it, but it's such a good song. And it's like, it's such a raw, like you could tell that she means what she's saying in it. That's actually the first Halsey song I ever heard that I like remember being like, oh, this is Halsey. This is really good. Her version of Without Me with Juice WRLD is also amazing. You know, it's a good song anyway, but Juice WRLD is on it, so it makes it 1,000 times better. Those are my two faves I can think of off the top of my head. Again, like most of her songs are really good, but those are two that come to mind immediately.
After hearing "Forget Me Too," that duet that she did with Machine Gun Kelly, I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I really want to hear her do a pop punk album now.
Yeah, yeah. I think she'd do well with that, just because like if you look at like her backstory, like she has like a pretty punk rock like origin story, and like how she's gotten to where she's at right now is like insane. So
yeah, she's a spiritual successor to Haley Williams, I think. Paramore. And then Joe Gramont asked, how was it knowing you were facing off in the first ever Invictus Pro Wrestling main event against Man of Steel Mike Verna? Did you think about ripping my sign? Also, if he went crazy, well, would you still call him Superman?
That was cool just because, again, like that was my first time. Or no, that wasn't my first time wrestling in front of a crowd, but that was my first time wrestling in front of like a wrestling crowd, because I'd done 2 shows run by MV Young, but like he has a very like particular fan base, and it's not really like wrestling fans, which is fine. I kind of like, I not say I prefer that, but yeah, like it was very small, like intimate crowds, but it was like people who were mostly there to see him, so whatever. But that was my first show in front of like a very more or less like wrestling audience. It was just cool to like do like, I was like, all right, it's a main event, so we got to have a main event caliber match. So let's like throw all the bells and whistles. And I again, like I was like, I want to have an Attitude Era-esque main event where there's a bunch of wacky shit going on. One of the things I wanted to do, that did not happen because of circumstances, I wanted us to do like a little thing on top of one of the bales of hay, which my body is very thankful that I didn't end up doing, because my back was like on fire for the next like 2 days from taking like a handful of falls onto the hay. Yeah, it was cool, like just being the main event of like someone's first show. You know, like we're at like try to set the bar for future shows and like send people home like very happy, fulfilled, but also like wanting to come back. I think like that should be every wrestler's job. Like every wrestler's aspiration should be, I want people to want to come back and see more of this. Yeah, I don't know. It was just really cool. It was really cool, like main eventing a show in this era where there's not a lot of shows. And also, I'd never wrestled Mike Vernon. I've known Mike for years. and I don't think him and I had ever like interacted in the ring, so that was fun too. Just like kind of bouncing off each other with verbal stuff and just like, yeah, I don't know, like Mike's a big boy too, so I felt I felt proud of myself that I was able to like not only like be able to move him around without killing him, but also like when he like did his dive and I didn't fucking let him land on his skull, you know what I mean? Like just little, little things like that. So I felt accomplished that I was able to get through that, and like I wasn't like dead at the end of it, and like my body felt more or less okay the next day, except for, like hay sticking out of my back essentially. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That's a lot to me.
No, we were definitely very happy with it. And I'd
Sure.
mentioned this before on podcasts, but there was a lot of shuffling around with the main event of guys that we had originally talked to dropping out. So I'm glad that we landed on you and Verna. I felt like
Yeah.
um, you guys really brought it, and like you said, it really set the bar.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all we got in terms of questions. So we'll move right into our clip of the week. We are back with our clip of the week. So, Mr. Stapp, you saw our episode last week with Gio Galvano. We were reacting to some of our backyard wrestling footage, and you have been so kind as to provide us with some of your backyard wrestling footage. So before we take a look at the clip, do you want to introduce us to what's going on here?
So the match we're watching, we're joining it in progress because the guy who uploaded everything to the internet is not very internet savvy. So I think he just like did as much as he could with the videos, but joined in progress. This was a triple. So like I was saying before, we would do shows at the Doghouse. I think the Doghouse was closed on this particular Saturday, Sunday, whatever it was. So we were like, all right, let's do a backyard show, whatever. Like we can still do them once in a while. We just like the guy who ran it had to like, pull some red tape with the parents and get us back there. So we did this crazy triple threat match. And so just for a little background, I'm CMF. I'm the wrestler CMF. My tag partner at the time was Golba. Basically his gimmick was that he was a child molester. I know that it doesn't age well, but that was essentially his gimmick, even though he was literally a child also. He was probably like 16. So him and I were a tag team called Indecent Exposure, which literally started with him just trying to ask me out on a date, and then we became a team. So we won the tag titles and we lost them, and we had some strife on a few of the shows, and the big show of the year, we were going to have our big blow off match and then do whatever from there. So the week before, I think this was like 2 weeks before the big blow off show, we were just like, let's just have a crazy match. Let's just have some goofy ass match. So a few months before this, we had our yearly tournament Extreme Cup, where I did my first like, not a house show dive, but like, I remember like 2001, Kane and like A-Train had a match on SmackDown, and Kane did this cool dive off the top to the floor. I was like, oh, I want to do that. Like I'm not athletic, but I can do that at least. So I did that in the Extreme Cup match to a guy who was like 30 pounds lighter than me, and he caught me, and it was great. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it again this time. I was like, but this time I want you guys to move out of the way, and I'm just gonna fall on the floor on my own power. Fine, whatever. The clip we're about to watch pretty much immediately jumps into my planned dive onto these two men and the hijinks that follow. So
Awesome. I'm going to share.
It's a gasper. It's a gasper, certainly. And you'll find out why shortly.
Share my screen. All right, cool. So mind my
recommended videos.
Recommended videos, yeah. So what year is this?
This is I don't remember the exact date, but I know it's July 2001. So
Okay.
I was like 14 here, maybe 13, 14.
This is good. So this is like some real, like, authentic, grainy, like, because Gio and I was when we were in high school. So it was like 2012 because we're young.
Mm.
But it was like way too like high definition to be like real backyard wrestling. So
Yeah.
look here.
So that's me falling out of the ring. So this was essentially just supposed to be a triple threat match. I'm whatever. You'll figure out who I am eventually. The guy in the red shirt is my partner. The red shirt and the Tommy Hilfiger jorts. That's Golba, my child molester partner, who is also a child. And we're also wrestling this guy DD. I think it was Dastardly Devious. He was a fun guy. I still talk to him. I think out of everyone, he probably the one who, like, if he actually stuck with wrestling, could have done something, because he was athletic. He always had like cool gear and shit like that, or at least like whatever. Okay, so here's me. So it had rained like 2 or 3 days before this, so I have mud and all this shit on the bottom of my pants, on the bottom of my shoes. But I'm like, all right, guys, I'm gonna do this dive, and you guys just part like the Red Sea, and I'm gonna fall on my own power. That was at least the intention of it. And as we see here, that does not happen. So we'll get right to that. So I'm trying to tell him, like, give me a little space, I'm gonna make it. And then Golba says, come on, jump, and then
Oh my god.
my shoe falls off, and instantly I'm like,
Checking on
oh
you there?
yeah, he's checking on me. We were feuding, but that was a real moment, brother. Real moment. Everyone, if you listen, if you play this with the volume on, you hear a girl, one of the guy's girlfriends say, "Oh my God, are you okay?" So I realized that my tooth fell out, and I was basically like a backyard, like, shitty knockoff of Mick Foley, basically, which is why I was doing things like this.
Yeah.
So I felt one of my teeth was gone, and I got up and I said, "Oh, I look like Mick Foley now," because I was missing a tooth.
What's your first thought?
It's literally my first thought. I think that girl right there, and the blonde girl with the short skirt, I think she was the one who goes, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I still kind of talk. I still see her every few years, and we always make fun of her about that, because the backyard crew will occasionally meet up and hang out, every so often, and that's inevitably always brought up. Partially because I'm the only person who pursued wrestling after backyard wrestling, but also because everyone's like so blown away that I still like am sticking with it. But yeah, that's like, I don't really know if I do anything noteworthy after this, but yeah, that's just the tops. Like, there's literally a wrestler just like standing by the tarp, just like watching, like, oh my God. Actually, at the end of the video, I think you see people looking for my tooth, and actually the guy doing the camera is like occasionally scanning over the floor to see if my tooth is visible, which we never found it.
What did he just throw?
I think it was either a garbage pail or like a child's wagon.
Looks like looks like a little wagon.
Yep, that was a wagon. Wagon came into play that night.
Did your head hit off the concrete, or was there something there that year? Because it sounded like your head hit off of something.
It was dirt. It was just dirt. I don't like. I remember it, so like I don't think I got a concussion, which I guess is good. Avoided that early on. Yeah, my face just like slammed against the dirt, and again, like, it had just rained a few days before, so like it was also the summer, so like the dirt had become, pretty compact by that point. So yeah, it was a rough spill, to say the least.
I was gonna say I'm very. Oh God, did the ring break?
Yeah, the ropes fell off pretty often. So like just to really put an exclamation mark on how much of a fucking mess this match was, the rope fell off. And
you were what, 14 years old?
I think it was 14 here.
I mean, the fact that you got back up and finished this match is that's a testament, because someone like me probably would have ran out crying looking for my tooth.
Well, I think it's also funny, and like honestly, we were pretty tame as far as like doing crazy shit to each other, because like the guy I'm hitting right now, he's the one who ran it, and he like trained for a little while, so he kind of knew like how more or less how to do the guy was wearing the white headband right there. I still text him like pretty much every day, and he brings his shit up like all the time. He's looking for my tooth like right now. He might still be looking for it to this day. I don't know, but I think that might be so so like we were actually like pretty tame as far as like the stuff you were seeing other people do in backyard wrestling, and then what we were doing was like, it was a little crazy, but I don't know. I think one person actually got hurt. I think like a guy like broke his wrist trying to do like a head scissor. He just fell wrong.
He's looking for the ref's looking for the tooth.
Yeah, pretty much the entirety, the rest of this video is just people looking for my tooth. And then like me and the partner were gonna do an angle here, but like everyone was pretty much convinced that I was like brain dead, which so everyone's looking for my tooth here. So we just hug and move on. We're like, all right, well, we're gonna fight in a few weeks, so I'll see you then. Again, my tooth was never found. I don't know. I don't remember swallowing it. It just disappeared, and that was it. And that was the end of my tooth. And then like going home. So like that guy's house was literally down the block from where I lived. So I had to go home, and like I was just like walking around the house like this basically. So like my mom didn't see the fact that I was now missing a tooth. And when she discovered it, she's like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "Mom, no, whatever, it happens." And then like going to school that week was a little weird because I was just missing a tooth. Now, and actually, it's fine. One of my best friends at the time also had a chipped tooth, not from the same thing, obviously, but like, so I was like, "Hey, Danny, can I talk to you for a minute?" He's like, "Yeah, what's up?" I was like, "Hey, we're like tooth brothers now," and I showed him. He was like, "Dude, how'd you break your tooth?" I was like, "I don't know. I'm an idiot. I fell when I was wrestling." He's like, "Oh, that's kind of cool. I got it fixed years later." So like, that's tooth is very fake. But yeah, that was it was either that or another match. I like the other match quality wise better, but that is just like the oh shit type of thing, and it's a shorter clip, so it's fine.
We used to play airsoft in my backyard in high school. So clearly we were just fucking menaces. There were backyard wrestling and airsoft and stuff. And we had a kid get his tooth shot out with BBs, and then he came back with his mom later that night, and then we're like looking on the driveway, and I didn't even know him particularly well. My parents were freaking out. They're like, "You're gonna get sued." And I was like, "No." So I can relate.
Yeah. I just think it's funny watching stuff like this back, because again, that was like 2001, and like again, we weren't like killing each other with stuff, but we were definitely like hitting each other with stuff in the head, not particularly hard, but we still were. And like, I don't know, it just brings up, and to go full circle with this, the first Invictus show in the main event, I hit Verno with a chair to the head, and I didn't want to do it, but he was like, "Nah, dude, I'll get my hands up." So like, it's funny watching the stuff back. Is like, oh, we didn't know about concussions back then. So like after the match, Verno was like, "Bro, you hit me with a chair." And I was like, I didn't know about concussions back then. So full circle moment.
That's funny. Oh my god. Yeah, as the now canceled Woody Allen once said, "Tragedy plus time equals comedy."
Yes, exactly.
All right, that has been our clip of the week. So we'll move into our last segment of the day, which is our news roundup. All right, and we are back with our news roundup. A couple items of note to discuss in the wacky and wonderful world of professional wrestling. First off, with Impact Wrestling, it was announced that Alex Shelley of the Motor City Machine Guns is out of the main event for Hard to Kill. That match, of course, was originally supposed to be Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, and Rich Swann against Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson. He's going to be replaced by Moose. He put out a video saying that it's not COVID related, but it's unforeseen circumstances. I don't know. It sucks. I was really looking forward to, because it had such a good build, but obviously I think Moose is a good replacement, and hopefully he'll get another chance to get his hands on him.
I wish to get an actual Moose. I've never seen a real Moose in person. I know that's not a thing that people desire, but
Oh, I'm I gotta go back here in my
Oh,
my Facebook profiles. I had this as my profile picture for a while. We're going back several years here now.
Speaking of wrestling news,
Here we
anytime I drive up to Maine, I make sure that I keep my eyes peeled for a moose. It's probably gonna. Holy shit!
Yeah. My dad told me not to get that close, but
Yeah, no.
it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So
Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah,
Love
that
that.
was in Ontario. We used to go camping there every summer.
Oh,
But
nice.
in fact, I was student teaching my senior year of college, and one of my students found me on Facebook, uh, went back in the profile pictures, printed out that picture in color, and then like stuck it to the board, like at the start of class. So when I rolled up like the thing, that was just like taped to the whiteboard in front of the thing.
That's great.
It was an April Fool's joke. And
That thing
again, we
is
talk about
fucking
tragedy
huge.
plus time equals comedy. That was I was very mad at the time, but I have to laugh at it now.
That thing is huge. I just pulled up the picture now. That thing is fucking enormous.
Oh yeah,
Anyway,
I thought you'd find Alex's OnlyFans page.
that's yeah. Well, that's how I get them. Like they see the moose, and I'm like, hey,
you bait him with the moose pick. You're like, I'm a risky guy.
yeah. I'm like, you know what else is big? Yeah. So we got that. Another newsworthy item, something I'm very excited about. It was announced that both Brian Pillman Jr. and Stone Cold Steve Austin are going to be involved in the Dark Side of the Ring season 3 premiere.
Oh.
It's going to be about the life and times of Flying Brian Pillman. I'm really excited not only for that, but for the whole third season. Dark Side of the Ring is great, and I really just appreciate the way that they tell some of these stories. And you know, it's for a lot of us, you know, it's our first time sort of getting the non-WWE slanted side of some of these stories. They're also doing they're going to be doing episodes this coming season on Nick Gage, which I'm very excited about.
Wow.
And also FMW, which I was, you know, that was one of the my first forays into Japanese wrestling was FMW with the exploding barbed wire and shit, which so I'm really excited about that.
Also, I thought I read this, but are they also doing an episode on China, or was that just a rumor? Or
I think they are. I read that too.
I heard it got
I know-
dropped.
oh,
They were supposed to originally, but it got dropped.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think Vince Russo had said that he interviewed for something with her, and it might have been the Dark Side of the Ring because him and like he was really like still relatively close with her until she died. I think he said that they interviewed him for that, but yeah, I guess it got dropped or whatever. But yeah, that'll be interesting.
I just love how raw it all is. You know, going back to what you were saying about the whole non-WWE perspective of things.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting really the full. It's not sugar coated or anything. You're up there and you have New Jack really telling you about him doing bundles of coke before matches and stuff like it. It's real shit.
Yeah,
and that's what fans want to hear. They don't want to hear a nicer version of what would happen, especially for the fans who weren't there and are only now seeing tapes. Who want to know the real stories.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited for the Nick Gage episode personally. Nick, did you ever hear my Nick Gage story?
No, but I'd like to hear it. I love Nick Gage.
So my very first time ever backstage at a wrestling show, I took a creative seminar with Gabe Sapolsky. So it was literally like me and I think there were 10 of us total. And it was at remember when he used to do the Style Battle shows?
Yes.
He would do so it was at one of those in Brooklyn, and it was a double header. It was Style Battle in the afternoon and then Evolve in the evening. And he literally just kept saying yeah, he's it's fine, no one gives a shit about Style Battle. And we were backstage, and basically one of the tournament matches was supposed to be Nick Gage versus Walter.
Mm-hmm.
And he was explaining the booking to us, and he's we can't really justify either person going over here because we spent $X thousand flying Walter over here from Europe, and Nick Gage also had just gotten out of prison, and he needs like
Yeah.
that momentum. So he's like, we're just gonna end it with like a pull apart brawl. And we're like, all right, cool. He's like, so I'm gonna go tell them that right now, and you guys are gonna come with me. So it was like, it was just really uncomfortable, obviously, because like there's like 10 fans in the locker room, but like we're guests of Gabe, so no one's gonna like care about it. So we go in and he like tells them what's going on. He's like, is that good with you? And Walter's like, yes, das ist good. And Nick Gage is like sitting in the corner with like a rag over his head, and he had a giant bag of Haribo gummy bears, and he was just like eating them. And then he's like, yeah, he's like, that's fine. And then he's like, oh, Gabe. And he like points at us, and he's like, tell these motherfuckers to stay the fuck out of my way. And Gabe just like turns around. He's like, all right. He's like, you heard the guy. He's like, maybe give him some space. And then when they do the angle with the brawl, like we're all, do you ever wrestle at St. Finbar's?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Okay, so you know that little, the little staircase off to the side?
Mm-hmm.
So there were a bunch of us, we were all packed into that staircase, like watching through the little door because everyone wanted to see the angle. So like there's a bunch of us in there, and then Gabe's like looking, and he's like, because it's all like going according to plan. And then I just see his face go from like a smile to this look of just like horror. And then we're like, what's going on? And he's like, hey, he's like, maybe you guys should like just get out of the way. We're like, why? And the door just comes like bursting open, and Gage like comes in, and he's like all blown out. And he's like, I thought I told you nerds to stay out of my way. And two dudes, like I just sort of went up against the wall, but two other dudes, they ran out the emergency exit, and they literally ran down the block.
I have it's a weird point of pride of mine that I think I made Nick Gage feel slightly uncomfortable when I wrestled him. So it was me, him, and Jeff Cannonball in a triple threat match, and Gage was like, hey, so like you want to get color? And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. It's a crazy hardcore match. I've never done it before. Let's do it. So he's like, all right, so whatever. He's like, I'll put you through a fucking door, and then I'll take the fucking thing and I'll put it into your head. And I was like, oh, so you're gonna do it, right? And he just went like, no, like I can do it, but like, nah, fuck that, you do it. He's like, you just get the thing. Jeff knows how to do it. And I was like, oh, all right. He got like I didn't really notice until afterwards. Like Cannonball was like, hey, you made Gage feel like kind of uncomfortable. That's kind of cool. I was like, Gage is great, but it was like a weird little moment where he was just like, nah, man, you fucking do it. I mean, like, I can do it, but like, no, you do. No, you do.
He's avoiding another a mass transit incident. He didn't want to. Yeah, he wanted his hands free of that.
Yeah. No, Gage is great. We love Nick Gage around the house.
Yeah. No, he's funny. Like I was terrified of him after that whole thing, but you know, I'd gone to GCW shows since then and like talked to him, and he's a cool dude.
Yeah.
And then the last little bit of news here is Shinsuke Nakamura has his old theme song back.
Oh.
Which is awesome. So a lot of people are saying that this is a sign of like a face turn and also like a main event push. So I know I said last week that I think Big E might win the Rumble, but I don't know. Now with all this happening, I might want to see Shinsuke win it, because he was one of those guys, like when he came over from New Japan, I was so excited, and then it just, you know, with that first takeover match against Sami Zayn, I was like, yes, this is awesome. And then I just was very disappointed with the way he'd been handled since then.
I just like any person that they get behind, I just worry about, because like not worry about it because like I'm not like watching it like, oh, I hope so and so gets this or whatever. I'm just watching it like just to see what they're doing and, you know, keep up with the product, I guess. And like, I don't know. I feel like everyone they get, like they'll get behind someone, just like I feel like there's just like a hunch for that week to be like, all right, well, like we'll throw so and so a thing or whatever, and then like within 2 or 3 weeks they're like, all right, we're gonna go to someone else now. So like, I don't know. I just watching it like from a fan's lens, I'm like, yeah, it's pointless to try to like emotionally get behind someone because like it's just moves so fast now that no one really has like a long-term momentum thing going anymore.
Yeah, and you have to wonder too, like the point that I always brought up with Shinsuke especially was like this dude spent years just like killing himself in New Japan, and now it's like if he wants to come to WWE and work, a more, you know, not as intense of a style, and go surfing on weekends, like let the man do it, like. But I don't know. I would like to see him get like one proper like main event run.
Yeah, I mean, when they tried it, it was him and Jinder, and like they could have had fun matches, but it was just like, I don't know, like someone decided like, no, let's just have them have this really like ugly styles clash, and like it's just, I don't know. I think anyone can have a match with anyone. Like obviously, like well-trained people, which they both are. I just think that there wasn't like enough concentration put into like making their matches actually interesting, instead of just throwing two completely unique like rocks at each other and expecting something to happen. Like I don't know. I feel like you have that many agents and producers there. Like just I don't know. Try to like accentuate instead of like shining a light on like what a weird styles clash just is, which I feel like they did more of that, and that's why things didn't really work out visually. But I don't know, that's just me.
Yeah, I guess we'll see how it all plays out over the next few weeks.
Also with him, like the whole AJ run like really hurt as well. I just wanted to throw that 2 cents in. I feel like there was such high expectations for that, and when that feud didn't really like play out the way I think fans imagined.
Well, Nick, you've seen their match, their Wrestle Kingdom match, right?
Yeah, no, they had bangers in Japan. So when they came over and it didn't translate as well,
Yeah. Oh,
You know what's crazy? I have still literally never watched a Wrestle Kingdom past the first match, because the first match is usually like a half hour long, and I just forget about it. I'm trying with this one. I've turned it on 6 times, and every time like towards the end of the battle royal, I'm like something else will come up and I'll just move on. I'm gonna watch it though. It's 9 hours long, but I'm gonna watch it. I'll give you guys my blow-by-blow review of it eventually.
Yes, I would love that. I'm not one of the ones that stays up for it. I'll wait and see which matches got the most hype and then watch it the next day.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's all we got for our news roundup. Before we sign off, Nick, do you have any social media presence you'd like to plug?
Yes, I have many presents. At Nick Stapp OK on Instagram and Twitter. I have a Facebook fan page, whatever they call it nowadays. You can catch me on Off the Hop Rope podcast. We drop episodes every Thursday around noon, whatever. I don't know. There's really nothing coming up. So, but you could when are you dropping this this interview here?
This will be out Tuesday night.
Okay, so Friday night, go to Invictus Pro Wrestling YouTube page. YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go to the Invictus Pro YouTube page and watch me and Clipper Jones kill it, bro. Well, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how much of that anime tape study gets Clipper by. No, I'm excited about that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just chilling. I don't know. I'm trying to make chicken salad out of whatever is being thrown at me right now. So,
yep, that's all we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, thank you very much for coming on. It's been a blast having you. For myself, Nick Outman, Ryan Gross, and our special guest Nick Stapp, this has been Power Hour. We will see you guys next week.
What's going on, Rockamaniacs, wrestling fans? I'm the Maroon Goon himself, Machismo Charismo, Bronco Bronson, and I'm here to tell you about the future of Invictus Pro Wrestling. You see, right now, they're going through many different endeavors. You can go on ProWrestlingTees.com and buy all the t-shirts they got that are on sale now for about $20 each. And you can also watch their shows that they've done so far. Eruption and November Rain, they're both available on Gumroad for a $9.99 bundle. You get to own both, brother, baby. You better believe it. Woosah!